Hi guys, and welcome to this new InstaMAT tutorial. Today we are going to finish up our Game Ready Assets series. What we did before was we sculpted the rock in ZBrush, we remeshed it and optimized it in InstaLOD, and today we are going to texture it in InstaMAT. I think we should just start right away, so when you have InstaMAT opened, you just go to this plus here to start a new project. Then choose layering. Let's use rock as a name for this one. And the category will stay as is, the type will stay multi-material as well, and then we're gonna pick our mesh. So we're gonna pick a local file and choose our rock low poly model here. We don't need to bake anything as we baked the maps we'll need in InstaLOD already. We go straight to create project without a template. And after our mesh loaded into InstaMAT, we go to our package management. We'll look for the folder we have our InstaLOD baked maps. Then we just drag and drop it into the package management. We can close this. Then we can go back to the layering project editor and apply our maps through the material sections. So we had an AO map. We have a curvature map, we have a normal tangent map, and we also have a world normal map, which we won't need, but I'll apply it nonetheless. So this is now our rock with the baked maps. It's still our low poly. When we turn on the wireframe here, you can see it's quite nice topology. Then let's go straight into texturing. And what we first do, we go to our package management and duplicate this by going to File and Save Project Copy. So we have our duplicate. Let's go back to our rock first. I'll show you what we'll need this for in a minute. Let's set the resolution to 2K. And at first we'll add our base color. So let's choose a multi-channel layer here and let's call it base color. Let's use a brownish color maybe, something darker. Let's rotate the light so we can see what we do. Let's turn our roughness to something really rough. And the next layer will be a color variation layer. So we add a new multi-channel layer. We call it color variance 1. We'll end up with like 3 of those maybe. Let's not make it as rough as the one before. And let's also choose a brownish color, but something lighter, like this. Let's add a mesh projected mask and let's choose a grunge map. I like to use my custom grunges, but you can use anything from the library. But I'll go with this one. This is already applied a bit of color variance, but we want to refine it a bit, so let's go back to the mesh projected mask. And let's adjust the balance. So this here is a bit of trial and error, just look for what you like. This looks quite good for me. Let's quickly save it. Let's change the opacity on this a bit, just slightly. And then I wanted to show you something nice by going to our duplicate rock here. Or rather, I'll show you how you can leverage the element graph here for your layering project. So let's just create a new element graph. Let's just create a project without a template. Let's take our rock duplicate and drag and drop it here. So what we can do here is, as we have a normal map, sorry, wrong one, a normal map and some other maps like the curvature, we can make a color map that is based on the characteristics of the rock. So at first I'm gonna use a normal to height node. And I'll shorten it up a bit. That's the wrong normal, like so. Then we'll blend this over with our AO. We'll just use a default blend, maybe like this. And we'll take our curvature and blend it over as well. So this is something I like to do when coloring rock materials. And then let's fractal some noise. And let's adjust it so it's a bit grainy. The scale maybe to 3. Interpolate value to something quite high, and we'll increase the gamma value as well, and then we'll enable custom gain and use a high value as well. So now we're gonna use a vector warp node, and we'll use our height map and use a gradient map. Let's set it to color, and we only need green and red values. Let's invert that. This is our vector input. Now we can work the fractal sum based on the gradient map here. And we can blend it over. Like this. And the gradient map dynamic now. Let's maybe use a rock from the library, a rock material from the library with nice colors. And let's sample the color directly from this window here. We'll need to set it to color. And maybe another one. Then we can sample just from here, a bit less colors. This was the wrong node. Yeah, like this maybe. Then we blend it over. Just slightly. And we'll define this as our base color output. Let's name that rock color variance. And let's choose a category, maybe custom color. Then we can save this and go back to our layering project. And basically we can just drag and drop it on our rock. But we need to set the projection mode to UV. Let's use a mesh projected mask again. And let's look for a nice grunge. Maybe this smudges grunge here. Let's also add an HSL node and decrease the saturation a bit, and let's make it lighter. Like this maybe. Now let's add an additional multi-channel layer with a brownish color but a bit darker. Quite dark actually. Let's increase the roughness a bit. Let's set the height to subtract and increase it a bit. And now we're gonna use a mesh projected mask again and look for a spotty noise. I take this fine spots noise again. This is a custom noise again, but you could use something like spots 4 or a fractal sum, but I like this one. Let's set the scale to something lower, maybe like this. And again, let's adjust the brightness and contrast. Let's go back to our layer here. And as you can see, we can introduce some height details. So this would be some pores. Let's preview our roughness map. To preview roughness, I like to use this HDRI, for example. This one here is great as well. That's quite good. Let's call this color variance 2. And let's add a third color variance layer. This will be something dark as well, maybe something gray even. And quite rough. Let's use a mesh projected mask again. And let's look for fractal sum. It's this one. Let's adjust the scale. We're gonna set it similarly to what we did in the element graph. So the higher gamma value, interpolate value, and a custom gain. Let's go to those settings here. Then let's go to the layer and set the height to something like 20 maybe. The color doesn't really fit well, so let's go back here and look for something else. Let's preview it at 4K. Yeah, that's quite good, I think. So now let's take a rock material from the library. Something that fits the color, maybe the sand rock here. Let's just drag and drop it on the rock. Then let's use a mesh mask builder. So with this one we try to lighten up the crevices and edges a bit. So at first let's set the AO to 1. Let's blur it slightly, maybe just 0.1 or 0.01. Let's increase the brightness a bit. Maybe like so, and the contrast. Let's lower the balance. Then let's go down here to curvature and let's set it to 1 as well. For the mode, let's use both, so edges and cavities are going to be affected. That's quite much. So let's again play a bit with the brightness, contrast and balance values. Contrast just slightly probably, like so. Let's set the balance to 1. Maybe we can also blur it slightly. That looks quite nice, but it's way too bright. So let's go to the sandrock layer here and let's just decrease the blend. Maybe like so. So that's starting to look nice. Let's maybe add some lichen on top of this. So let's use a multi-channel layer again. Let's set the color to something, I don't know, maybe light green. And the height to something higher than 0. We're gonna check this again when we have our lichen shapes ready. We're gonna use a mesh projected mask again. And we'll use the spots for noise. It's in, not in noises, but I think in grunge. So the spots for noise is a spotty noise which will be quite nice to make some lichen, or to make something that resembles lichen actually. Let's increase the scale a bit, maybe to 3. Let's increase the softness. As it's also quite a cloudy noise, but we just want to have the spots, we're gonna use the balance and contrast sliders here as well. And now let's break it up a bit more by adding a mesh projected mask again. And we'll again use a fractal psalm noise, which was here somewhere. Let's again play a bit with the values here, all the sliders. So we don't want to have the lichen visible as much. maybe like this. Let's set them to something really rough. Let's just use 100% roughness. And now for rocks, what I sometimes like to do is to blend over the curvature mask or the curvature map. So let's add a new layer, a multi-channel layer again. For the base color, let's use an image resource, which would be our curvature map here. We need to set the projection mode to UV. Let's use overlay and let's decrease the value here, the opacity. And let's break this up a bit by using a mesh projected mask again. Let's use a clouds noise, maybe the, where is it? It's the clouds heavy noise. Let's solo the masks to see what we are doing. Let's increase the gamma. And let's maybe go to balance at the bottom here. Let's see how that looks. As we want to have the curvature map only affecting the base color, we need to go to the layer channels again and let's set all the other channels to 0. So it only affects the base color. Let's adjust this a bit. We don't want to have too much here as it tends to look unnatural then. Maybe like this. Now we could add something that affects only the roughness channel. So let's use the multi-channel layer again. Let's go to the layer channels and set the opacity for all the modes to 0. For the roughness, let's leave it at 50%. Let's use a mesh projected mask again. And let's look for something that has some moisture or leaks in it. Let's just take this moisture grunge here maybe. Let's go back here and make it more shiny to see what we are doing here. Shouldn't have much of an effect, just a bit. Let's go back to the mesh projected mask and see what we can set up with for the noise. Let's actually go to the roughness channel. That's quite nice. It only should have a really slight effect on the whole mesh, on the whole model. I think this looks quite nice. Now we could go in and add some moss maybe. So let's look in the material library for moss. Let's just drag and drop it here. Let's drag the moss to the top of our layer stack. And actually let's choose all of our layers here. And by going to this button or pressing Ctrl and G, we can add it to a new layer group. And what we can do now, let's hide the moss first. We could add an HSL operation, for example. And then we can always adjust the hue or the saturation in this case. And then we'll have always some control over the rock here, over the hue, saturation and the luminosity. So when we want to have a more gray rock, we can just decrease the saturation, for example, which looks quite nice. So I probably leave it like this. Then let's turn on our moss again and let's use a mesh mask builder. Let's invert it. So we want to have moss applied based on the AO and the curvature. So let's go to AO and increase the opacity to 1. Let's invert this one. And again, let's play with our brightness, contrast and balance values here. Let's maybe blur it slightly. So like this. And now for the curvature, let's go to curvature and set the opacity to -1. Let's use cavities and edges. Again, let's play a bit with the values and see what we can do here. Let's break this up with a grunge. Let's maybe use the cracked one here. Let's go back to the curvature. This doesn't look really nice or realistic rather. Let's blur it up a bit. So in most cases for those masks, balance and contrast are best friends, I think. Then use another grunge and set it to opacity -1. I just use this one. This is a custom one again. But again, you can use everything from the library. And then let's use a mesh projected mask again. And let's use a spots noise. Let's go to noises. Oh, it's in grunges, sorry. Let's use the spot 7 or spot 6 maybe. Let's change that to subtract. Let's go to the moss material properties. Let's change the color to something lighter. Let's preview in 4K. I think that looks quite nice, so let's conclude the tutorial here. We textured our rock quite fastly. We added some normal details. We added some moss, a nice rock texture or rock material. And maybe I'll make another video and show you how to import it into a game engine like Unreal Engine or something. But otherwise, that was the last video from the Game Ready Assets series. The next one will be a bonus if there will be one, so maybe tell me if you're interested in this. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one. If there are any questions left, just ask me in the comments. I try to answer everything as best as I can. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.